The snow fell heavy on Earth's capital city, covering the streets in white blankets that sparkled under the holiday lights. Inside a small apartment on the 32nd floor, Marcus Chen stared at his communication device with growing panic. The blue glow showed him dozens of missed calls, all from the same contact, Empress Sci-Fi of the Draconian Empire. His hands shook as he checked the time. December 24th, 11:47 p.m. He had missed their date by nearly 4 hours. No, he muttered, running his fingers through his dark hair. The emergency at the Human Diplomatic Corps had taken longer than expected. A trade dispute between two minor alien races had threatened to escalate into war, and as Earth's junior mediator, Marcus couldn't leave until the situation was resolved. He tried calling Sci-Fi back, but the line went straight to her Imperial voicemail. The automated message played in perfect English with her slight reptilian accent. "You have reached the personal line of Her Imperial Majesty, Sci-Fi the Eternal Flame, Empress of the Draconian Systems. State your purpose." Marcus ended the call without leaving a message. What could he possibly say? "Sorry, I missed our first Christmas Eve together because of work. Sorry, I forgot to tell you I might be late." The Draconian Empire controlled over 1,000 star systems. Their military might was legendary. Their technology centuries ahead of humanity's, and their Empress, despite being over 300 years old, had chosen to date him, a 28-year-old human who couldn't even remember to send a message. He grabbed his coat and rushed to the door, then stopped. Where would she be? They were supposed to meet at the rooftop restaurant overlooking the city, but that was hours ago. She probably left. Maybe she went back to the Draconian embassy. Or worse, maybe she had already returned to her flagship in orbit. His neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, poked her head out as he stood frozen in the hallway. "Marcus? Everything all right, dear? You look pale." "I messed up, Mrs. Patterson. I really messed up." The elderly woman stepped out, wrapped in a festive red robe. "The dragon lady? I saw her earlier." Marcus's heart jumped. "You saw Sci-Fi? When? Where?" "Oh, must have been around 8 o'clock. Such a tall woman. And those golden eyes are hard to miss. She was heading to your apartment with the most beautiful bouquet of flowers I've ever seen. They looked like they were made of starlight." "She came here?" Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Did she say anything?" "She asked if I'd seen you." "Very polite. That one. Not what you'd expect from an alien empress." "I told her you were probably at work." Mrs. Patterson adjusted her glasses. "She waited outside your door for quite a while. I offered her tea, but she declined." Marcus thanked his neighbor and rushed back into his apartment. He had to find Sci-Fi. He had to explain. But first, he needed to understand why this mattered so much. 6 months ago, when the Draconian delegation had arrived on Earth for the Galactic Peace Summit, no one expected the Empress herself to attend. Draconian royalty rarely left their home systems, but there she stood in the assembly hall, 7 feet tall, with scales that shifted from deep purple to midnight blue. Wearing ceremonial armor that probably cost more than Earth's entire defense budget. Marcus had been assigned as her cultural liaison, meant to help her understand human customs and ensure her comfort during the summit. Their first meeting had been a disaster. He'd accidentally offered her coffee, a beverage toxic to Draconians, and mispronounced her name 3 times. But instead of incinerating him with her legendary temper, she had laughed. It was a strange sound, like wind chimes mixed with distant thunder. "You humans," she had said, her forked tongue flicking out in amusement. So eager to please, yet so clumsy in execution. It's endearing. Over the following weeks, what started as professional interactions evolved into something more. She asked him about human literature, and he discovered she had memorized Shakespeare in the original English. He taught her about Earth music, and she shared Draconian symphonies that made him weep without understanding why. She showed him holograms of her empire's celestial wonders, and he took her to a food truck that served the best tacos in the city. The day before the summit ended, she had pulled him aside. "Marcus Chen," she said, using his full name as Draconians did when speaking of important matters. "I find myself reluctant to end our association." That's how it began. The Empress of 1,000 worlds and a junior diplomat who lived in a one-bedroom apartment. They met when her duties brought her to Earth, which happened more frequently than necessary for someone of her status. She learned about human holidays and traditions with the fascination of a scholar. When December approached, she had been especially intrigued by Christmas. A celebration of birth and renewal, she had mused during one of their video calls. We Draconians have the festival of first flame, but it lacks the warmth of your tradition. The gathering of loved ones, the exchange of gifts, the decorations that light the darkness. I would like to experience this with you. They had planned everything. Christmas Eve, dinner at the rooftop restaurant, where they'd shared their first unofficial date. Then a walk through the city to see the decorations. She had even mentioned bringing a gift, though she wouldn't tell him what it was. Surprises are part of the tradition, are they not? She had said with what passed for a smile on her reptilian features. And he had missed it. All of it. Marcus grabbed his communication device again and scrolled through her messages. The first ones were light, asking if he was running late. Then concerned, wondering if something had happened. The last one, sent at 10 p.m., simply said, "I understand." 2 words that hit harder than any angry tirade. He ran out of his apartment and took the elevator to the roof. The restaurant was closed, chairs stacked on tables, lights dimmed. Only the city lights below and the stars above illuminated the space. But there, near the edge where they had stood 6 months ago watching the sunset, he saw a figure. Scylarith stood with her back to him, still wearing the formal earth dress she had specially commissioned for tonight. It was deep blue, matching her scales, with silver threading that caught the light like constellations. Her white hair, which she usually wore in elaborate draconian braids, hung loose past her shoulders. She looked smaller somehow, without her armor or imperial regalia, more vulnerable. "Scylarith," he called out softly. She didn't turn. The restaurant closed at 10. "The manager stayed an extra hour for me. He said you had made special arrangements. Earth flowers on the table, a musician to play something called jazz. A menu designed specifically for draconian dietary requirements." Her voice carried no emotion, which somehow made it worse. It was very thoughtful. "I'm so sorry. There was an emergency at work." "I know." She finally turned to face him. Her golden eyes, usually bright with inner fire, seemed dimmed. "Mrs. Patterson told me you were likely dealing with important matters. The vegan Krelos trade dispute, I assume? My intelligence network reported the near conflict. You know about that? I am the Empress of the Draconian Empire, Marcus. Very little happens in this sector without my knowledge." She looked back at the city lights, including the fact that junior diplomat Chen requested assignment to that case 3 days ago. Marcus felt his face burn. He had volunteered for the assignment, wanting to prove himself capable of handling larger responsibilities. "I didn't think it would take so long." "No," she interrupted. "You didn't think. That has always been one of humanity's most fascinating qualities. You act on instinct, on passion, on hope. You throw yourselves into situations without considering all outcomes. It's why you've survived when other young species have fallen. It's why you've earned the respect of races far older and more powerful." She moved closer to the edge, her dress rippling in the cold wind. Marcus noticed she wasn't wearing a coat. Draconians didn't feel cold the way humans did, but she had taken to wearing earth clothes to blend in better during her visits. "Do you know why I chose to pursue this relationship?" she asked suddenly. Marcus stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. "I've wondered about that every day. My advisors certainly wonder. They present me with lists of suitable mates from noble draconian houses. Warriors who have conquered systems. Scientists who have unlocked the secrets of stars. Leaders who could strengthen political alliances." She laughed. That wind chime thunder sound. But it was tinged with sadness. "And instead, I choose a human who brings me tacos and struggles to pronounce my language. Scylarith, I chose you because you see me." She turned to face him fully. Not the Empress. Not the symbol of draconian power. not the ancient being who has lived 10 human lifetimes. You see, Silorith, the individual who enjoys your Shakespeare and laughs at your jokes, even when they're not particularly funny. Marcus felt tears stinging his eyes. The cold made them worse. And then I screwed it up by putting work first. Did you? She tilted her head. A gesture he had learned indicated deep thought. Or did you do exactly what I fell in love with? You saw a conflict that could lead to suffering, and you acted to prevent it. You put the needs of others before your own desires. Even before mine. Love? The word hung between them like a star going supernova. Silorith's scales shifted color, cycling through deep purples and blues, a sign of strong emotion. Is that so surprising? That the dragon Empress could love? We are not the cold-blooded conquerors your fiction portrays us as. We feel, perhaps too deeply. It's why we hide behind armor and ceremony. She reached into a hidden pocket of her dress and pulled out a small box. I brought your gift. I spent considerable time researching appropriate Christmas presents. The human at the shopping center was very patient with my questions. Marcus took the box with trembling hands. Inside was a watch, but not just any watch. The face showed not just Earth time, but also Draconian Imperial time, and the stellar positions of both their worlds. So you'll always know when I'm thinking of you, she said. Draconian midnight is when I often find myself wondering what you're doing. Silorith, He stopped, overwhelmed. I didn't get you anything. I planned to. But you gave me something already. She moved closer, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her. Draconians ran hotter than humans, their internal fires literal rather than metaphorical. You gave me the gift of being late. 1. Marcus blinked in confusion. What? If you had been on time, we would have had a pleasant dinner. We would have walked through your city. We would have exchanged gifts. And it would have been perfect. She reached out, her scaled hand gently touching his face. But perfect is a performance. Perfect is what the Empress does for ceremonies and state functions. Tonight, you showed me something real. You showed me that I matter enough to run through the snow without a proper coat. You showed me that missing our date caused you genuine distress. You showed me that this us is not just another diplomatic duty for you. Marcus leaned into her touch. Her hand was warm against his cold skin. I never want to hurt you. Ever. Humans, she murmured. You think in such absolutes. You will hurt me, Marcus Chen. Just as I will hurt you. That is the nature of caring for another being. The question is, whether the joy outweighs the pain. Does it? Instead of answering, she pulled him closer. The height difference meant he had to tilt his head back to look at her. Your planet has a tradition. When the clock strikes midnight on Christmas Eve, those who care for each other share a gesture of affection. Marcus glanced at his new watch. 11:59. A kiss? I researched extensively, though I should warn you, Draconian anatomy makes the process somewhat different than what you're accustomed to. As the city clock began to chime midnight, Marcus stood on his toes and pressed his lips to hers. It was indeed different. Her scales were smooth and warm, and when she responded, he could taste something like cinnamon and starlight. Somewhere in the city, church bells rang. Snow continued to fall. And on a rooftop in Earth's capital, a human and a dragon celebrated their first Christmas. When they finally parted, Silorith's scales had shifted to a warm golden hue. Merry Christmas, Marcus Chen. Merry Christmas, Your Imperial Majesty. She flicked her forked tongue at him in mock annoyance. I believe we're past titles. Said, Merry Christmas, Silorith. They stood together watching the snow fall, her warmth keeping the cold at bay. After a while, she spoke again. I should tell you something. I didn't just wait at your apartment. I visited several locations tonight. Oh? Your office was my first stop. Your supervisor was working late. Commander Hayes? An interesting woman. We had a lengthy discussion about your future with the diplomatic corps. The golden tint to her scales intensified. I may have expressed my opinion that your talents are being underutilized. Marcus groaned. Please tell me you didn't threaten her. I never threaten, I simply observe. For instance, I observed that the Draconian Empire values strong diplomatic relationships with Earth. I observe that those relationships are best maintained by capable individuals who understand both cultures. And I observed that promoting such individuals would be wise. Silurith. I also visited the vegan and Krelos ambassadors. Separately, of course. I commended them on their wisdom in accepting human mediation. And I may have mentioned that the Draconian Empire looks favorably upon species that resolve conflicts peacefully. Marcus stared at her. You helped resolve the dispute? I did nothing of the sort. I merely had conversations. If those conversations happened to remind certain parties that war is expensive and trade is profitable, that was purely coincidental. She pulled him closer. Though I did make it clear that any future disputes should be scheduled during business hours, emergencies on human holidays will be viewed unfavorably. You're incredible. I am the Dragon Empress. Being incredible is part of the position. But her scales shifted to a softer purple, pleased by the compliment. Though I prefer your human word. Amazing. They stayed on the rooftop until the snow became too heavy, then made their way inside. The building was quiet, most residents asleep or away for the holidays. As they waited for the elevator, Silurith spoke again. I should return to the embassy. Dawn approaches, and I have a video conference with the Draconian High Council. They wish to discuss my concerning fascination with human customs. Will you get in trouble? For tonight? She laughed. I am 347 years old. I have ruled for 2 centuries. I have conquered worlds and forged peace between ancient enemies. The council may voice their concerns, but they would not dare do more. The elevator arrived, and they stepped inside. Marcus pressed the button for his floor, then hesitated. Would you like to come in? I have tea. The kind that won't poison you. Marcus Chen, are you inviting the Empress of the Draconian Empire to your 1-bedroom apartment for tea? I'm inviting Silurith, who happens to like Earth documentaries and can quote Shakespeare better than most humans, to spend what's left of Christmas Eve somewhere warm. Her scales cycled through several colors before settling on a deep rose. I would like that. Though I should warn you, I've never spent the night in a human dwelling. I've never had an Empress over. We'll figure it out together. As the elevator rose, Marcus felt her hand find his. Her scales were smooth against his skin, and her grip was gentle despite the strength he knew she possessed. Outside the windows, snow continued to fall over the sleeping city. Somewhere in orbit, her flagship waited. Somewhere in the galaxy, trade disputes and political intrigue continued. But in that moment, in that small elevator, there was just a human and a dragon, holding hands on Christmas Eve. Marcus's apartment looked different through Silurith's eyes. What he had always considered cramped and ordinary seemed to fascinate her. She examined everything with the intensity of an archaeologist, discovering ancient treasures. The small kitchen where he barely had room to turn around. The living room dominated by a second-hand couch and a coffee table he'd assembled incorrectly. The bathroom that required strategic maneuvering to close the door. This is where you live, she said. Not a question but a statement filled with wonder. Her golden eyes traced the water stains on the ceiling, the mismatched furniture, the stack of diplomatic reports threatening to topple off his desk. This is your space. It's not much. Marcus felt heat rise to his face as he noticed the dirty dishes in the sink, the laundry draped over a chair. Nothing like the Imperial Palace, I'm sure. The palace has 10,000 rooms, Silurith said, running a scaled finger along his bookshelf. I have lived in perhaps a dozen of them. The rest are for show, for visitors who need to be impressed or intimidated. They are stages for the performance of power. She picked up a photo frame from the shelf Marcus with his parents and sister at last year's New Year celebration. But this is a home. Every object has a story. Every imperfection speaks of life being lived rather than displayed. Marcus busied himself in the kitchen, preparing the draconian-safe tea he'd started keeping after their third date. The electric kettle rumbled to life while he searched for clean cups. He found two that didn't match, one with a chip in the handle, another with a faded logo from his university. "Tell me about your family," Silarith said, still studying the photo. "You speak of them rarely." "Not much to tell. Dad's an engineer on the Mars colony. Mom teaches xenobiology at the university here. My sister Sarah is a pilot in the merchant fleet." He poured the tea, a blend that smelled like cinnamon and ozone. They were surprised when I went into diplomacy instead of something technical. Surprised or disappointed, Marcus carried the cups to the living room, where Silarith had gracefully folded herself onto his small couch. Even sitting, she seemed to fill the space, her presence transforming the shabby apartment into something grander. Maybe a little of both at first. But they came around. Mom especially was thrilled when I told her about you. "She's been pestering me to bring you to dinner. And you haven't because?" "Because introducing my girlfriend to my parents is nerve-wracking enough without adding, 'Oh, by the way, she's the immortal Empress of a galactic superpower to the mix.'" Silarith accepted the tea, cradling the chipped cup in her hands as if it were precious porcelain. "I am not immortal. Draconians simply age differently than humans. And I would like to meet your family." "Really? Family bonds are sacred in Draconian culture. To know someone truly, you must understand where they come from." She sipped the tea and made a pleased rumbling sound. "Also, I am curious about the woman who teaches xenobiology, yet raised a son who tried to serve me coffee. I'm never living that down, am I? Never." Her scales shifted to a warm amber. "It has become one of my favorite memories. The mighty human diplomat, so confident in the negotiation chamber, reduced to stammering apologies over beverage selection." They sat in comfortable silence, the muted sounds of the city filtering through the windows. Marcus found himself studying her in the soft lamplight. Without her armor and imperial regalia, Silarith looked almost vulnerable. Her scales caught the light differently here, revealing patterns he'd never noticed before, swirls and constellations that seemed to tell stories. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That you're beautiful." The words slipped out before he could stop them. "I mean, you think me beautiful?" She seemed genuinely surprised. "By human standards? By any standard. But also—" He struggled to find the right words. "It's not just how you look. It's how you move through the world, like you're dancing to music only you can hear. It's how your scales change color when you're thinking. It's the way you hold a teacup like it matters." Her scales cycled through several rapid color changes before settling on deep rose. "Marcus Chen, are you attempting poetry?" "Badly. I like your bad poetry." She set down her cup and shifted closer to him on the couch. "May I tell you something that would horrify my advisors?" Always. When I first saw you in the assembly hall, stumbling over protocol and mispronouncing names, my initial thought was not kind. I thought, another human functionary, trying so hard to matter in a universe that barely notices their species. 70I. Marcus winced. "Ouch. But then you did something unexpected. After the coffee incident, when my guards moved to escort you out, you stood your ground. Not aggressively, not defiantly. You simply said, 'I apologize for my error. May I try again?' Do you remember?" "Vaguely." "I was mostly trying not to panic. In that moment, you showed me what makes humanity special. Not your technology, we surpassed that centuries ago. Not your military might, you know how that comparison ends. Not even your resilience, though that is admirable." She touched his face again, her warm hand gentle against his skin. "It's your ability to fail and continue, to face beings who could destroy you without effort and say, 'May I try again?' That kind of courage can't be taught or engineered, it simply is." Marcus covered her hand with his. "Is that why the Draconian Empire has been so protective of Earth?" "We've all wondered. One of many reasons." She leaned back, pulling him with her until they were reclined on the small couch. It should have been awkward, she was too tall. He was at the wrong angle. The couch protested under their combined weight. But somehow it worked. "Would you like to hear a secret? Something not even my council knows?" "Yes." The first time Draconians encountered humans was not at the Centauri station, as the official records state. It was 40 years earlier, on a small mining asteroid in the Vega system. Marcus propped himself up on an elbow. What? But first contact was official first contact, yes. This was unofficial. Her eyes grew distant. Remembering. A human mining ship had suffered critical engine failure. They were dying. Far from any human colonies, a Draconian patrol found them. By law, by protocol, by every rule of our empire, we should have ignored them. They were not allies. They were not even recognized as sentient by our standards at the time. They were just another young species struggling in the dark. But the patrol commander made a decision. She rescued them, repaired their ship, shared supplies. Silorith's scales shifted to deep blue. She was my sister. Marcus felt his breath catch. Your sister? Valanth the Compassionate, though she earned that title later. She spent 3 days with those humans, learning their language, their culture, their dreams. When she returned and made her report, the council was furious. She had revealed our existence to an unknown species. She had shared technology. She had violated a dozen protocols. What happened to her? Father exiled her to the frontier. She died 50 years later defending a colony from raiders. But before she left, she told me something. She said the humans sang. Sang? Their ship was failing, life support dying, death certain. And they sang. Songs from their homeland, melodies of hope and defiance. She said she had seen 1,000 species face death, some with stoicism, some with rage, some with despair, but she had never seen a species sing their way into the dark. Silorith's voice grew soft. She said any species that could harmonize while dying deserved a chance to live. Marcus felt tears on his cheeks. And that's why I pushed for official first contact. Why the Empire has been humanity's silent guardian. Why I learned your languages and studied your cultures. I wanted to understand the species that sang in the void. She wiped his tears with a scaled thumb. And then I met you, who offers coffee to dragons and apologizes for mispronunciation while standing before the throne of stars. They lay together on the too small couch, her warmth seeping into him. Outside, dawn was breaking over the city, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The snow had stopped, leaving the world clean and bright. I should go, Silorith murmured, though she made no move to rise. The council meeting. Stay, Marcus said. Please, it's Christmas morning. The council can wait a few more hours. The Empress does not skip meetings for personal indulgence. Good thing you're just Silorith right now. She laughed, that wind chime sound he loved. You make a compelling argument. Though I warn you, my absence will cause significant concern. They may send search parties. Let them search. They won't think to look in a one-bedroom apartment with water damage and a broken radiator. The radiator is broken? No wonder it's cold. She pulled him closer, wrapping her arms around him. Her natural heat was better than any heating system. How do you humans survive in such conditions? Stubbornness, mostly. And lots of blankets. Show me. Marcus extracted himself reluctantly and led her to his bedroom. It was even smaller than the living room, dominated by a bed that would be comically inadequate for someone of Silorith's height. His mismatched sheets were thankfully clean. He pulled extra blankets from the closet, creating a nest of warmth. Silorith examined the bed with scientific interest. This is where you rest? When work allows. She sat on the edge, testing the mattress. It's softer than Draconian sleeping platforms. We believe firm surfaces promote proper scale alignment. Is it uncomfortable? Different, not unpleasant. She lay back experimentally, her feet hanging off the end. Your ceiling has water damage too. My upstairs neighbor has an enthusiastic approach to bath time. And yet you remain here. Marcus lay beside her, careful to maintain respectful distance. It's what I can afford. Junior diplomats aren't exactly rolling in credits. That will change, she said with certainty. Commander Hayes seemed very receptive to my observations about your potential. Silarith, you can't just— I can, and I did. Not through threats or imperial pressure. I simply shared my professional opinion as someone who has worked closely with you. Your skills are wasted in junior positions. Your handling of the vegan Kryllos situation proves this. That was a team effort. Marcus. She turned to face him, her golden eyes serious. You must learn to accept recognition for your achievements. This human tendency toward excessive humility, while endearing, can be self-defeating. Is that your imperial decree? It's your girlfriend's advice. She paused, scales shifting. Is that the correct term? Girlfriend? Human relationship classifications confuse me. The translator suggested several options ranging from romantic partner to something called boo, which seems linguistically improbable. Marcus laughed so hard he shook the bed. Please never change. Change is inevitable. But I'll endeavor to maintain the qualities you find amusing. She pulled him closer. Now, explain these blankets. How do they function as a heating system? He showed her how to layer them, creating a cocoon of warmth. She was fascinated by the concept, comparing it to draconian heat-sharing circles. As they settled under the covers, her natural warmth made the broken radiator irrelevant. Your people really huddle together for warmth? Marcus asked. In our ancient history, before we mastered our internal fires, hatchlings still do it instinctively. It's considered intimate to share heat as adults. Oh, should I stay? She pulled him back when he started to move away. I'm sharing my heat with you, Marcus Chen. The implications are intentional. They lay in comfortable silence, listening to the city wake up. Somewhere, church bells rang to announce Christmas morning. Marcus's upstairs neighbor began their morning routine, footsteps heavy on the ceiling. What happens next? Marcus asked eventually. In the immediate future? You'll fall asleep because humans require more rest than draconians, and you've been awake all night. I'll watch you sleep. Which sounds disturbing when stated aloud, but is actually quite peaceful. Your neighbor will take another enthusiastic bath. Your ceiling will develop new water stains. I meant with us. I know what you meant. She was quiet for a long moment. The council will protest. Your government will have concerns. Media on both sides will speculate endlessly. There will be those who see our relationship as political maneuvering, or worse. And none of that matters. She turned to face him fully. I am Silarith, the eternal flame. I have ruled for 2 centuries. I have made decisions that affected billions. I have stood before the Galactic Assembly and refused to yield on matters of principle. If I cannot choose my own heart's path, what is the purpose of power? The council won't try to stop you. They'll try. There will be presentations about bloodline purity and political alliances. They'll parade eligible draconian nobles before me. They'll commission studies on the biological impossibilities of human draconian offspring. Her scales shifted to amused orange. They'll fail to realize I've already commissioned my own studies. The xenobiology department at your mother's university has been very helpful. Marcus sat up abruptly. You've talked to my mother's department? Anonymously, through intermediaries. I was curious about possibilities. She pulled him back down. Don't look so panicked. The research is purely theoretical at this stage. At this stage, time moves differently when you live for centuries, Marcus. I think in decades where you think in years. But yes, I consider possible futures. All of them include you. The weight of her words settled over him like another blanket. That's big. Too big? He thought about it. Really thought about it. The reality of dating not just an alien, but an empress. The complications, the scrutiny, the challenges they'd face, the fact that she would live long after he was gone. No, he said finally. Not too big, just big enough to be worth it. She made that pleased rumbling sound again. You humans. Always finding poetry in the improbable. Says the dragon who learned Shakespeare. I am not a dragon. The correct term is draconian. Dragons are mythical earth creatures. You're a 7-foot-tall flying reptile who breathes fire and hoards treasure. I am 7 feet 2 inches. Flight requires mechanical assistance. Our wings are primarily ceremonial now. The fire breathing is a controlled plasma discharge that takes considerable energy, and I don't hoard treasure. Your palace has a room literally called the Treasure Vault. That's different. That's cultural preservation. It's hoarding. It's not. She stopped, seeing his grin. The mighty Empress, brought low by human humor, she retaliated by pulling all the blankets to her side, leaving him exposed to the cold air. The mighty human, brought low by thermal dynamics. Brutal, heartless, tyrannical. Yes, I am. What's your point? They fought for the blankets, laughing like younglings. In the struggle, they knocked a pillow to the floor and nearly broke the bedside lamp. Finally, exhausted, they called a truce and shared the covers equally. This is nice, Silurith said softly. This, playfulness. The imperial court doesn't encourage such behavior. Well, you're not in court now. You're in apartment 32B, with the broken radiator, an aggressive upstairs neighbor. My favorite place in the known universe. Marcus felt his heart skip. Silurith. Sleep, Marcus Chen. You're exhausted and emotional. Save your declarations for when your brain is fully functional. But, sleep, I'll be here when you wake. Promise? I promise. Though I may have to conduct my council meeting from your living room. Do you mind if several dozen draconian nobles see your laundry chair? Marcus was already drifting off, her warmth better than any lullaby. Tell them it's performance art. Sleep. My impossible human. As consciousness faded, Marcus felt her press what might have been a kiss to his forehead. Or maybe he dreamed it. Either way, he slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, held safe in the arms of an empress who had chosen him above all the stars in her domain. When he woke hours later, the afternoon sun was streaming through his windows. True to her word, Silurith was still there, though she had relocated to his living room. She sat cross-legged on the floor, a holographic display shimmering before her, addressing what appeared to be the entire Draconian High Council. Understand your concerns, Counselor Vrex. But my decision stands, she was saying in Draconian. Marcus understood enough to follow along. Yes, I am on Earth. Yes, I am in a human dwelling. No, I will not discuss the specifics. One of the council members, an elderly Draconian with scales more gray than purple, leaned forward in his projection. Your Majesty, this behavior is highly irregular. The morning celebration of the Feast of First Flame will proceed without me. High Priestess Kalinth is fully capable of lighting the ceremonial fires. Silurith's tone brooked no argument. I am celebrating a different holiday today, one that celebrates new beginnings and the possibility of peace. I find it appropriate. Another counselor spoke up. And the human? He is there with you? He is resting. Humans require more sleep than we do, especially after staying awake all night ensuring my comfort in his city. Marcus noticed several of the council members exchange glances. One, younger looking with bright red scales, seemed to be fighting a smile. Perhaps, the red-scaled one said carefully, we could postpone the remaining agenda items until tomorrow. The trade agreements can wait another day. Silurith's scales shifted to pleased gold. Thank you, Counselor Thys. That would be acceptable. May the flames burn bright, Your Majesty, the council said in unison. And may the stars guide your path, Silurith responded, ending the call. The hologram disappeared, and she turned to find Marcus watching from the doorway. How long have you been standing there? Long enough to see you defend spending Christmas in my terrible apartment to your entire government. It was just the High Council, only 40 members, and your apartment is not terrible. It has character. It has water damage. Character. She stood gracefully, stretching wings that barely fit in the confined space. Are you rested? Mostly. Hungry, though. I don't suppose you told the council you were also going to experience human breakfast food? I did not. But I'm willing to expand my cultural education. What do humans eat on Christmas morning? Marcus moved to the kitchen, checking his supplies. Traditionally, Elaborate family meals. In my apartment? Whatever's in the fridge that won't poison you. Sounds perfect. They spent the afternoon together, cooking, badly, watching Earth movies. She critiqued the scientific inaccuracies, and talking about nothing important. It was domestic in a way that made Marcus's heart ache with how normal it felt. If he ignored the scales and wings, and the occasional holographic interruption from various imperial departments, it could have been any couple spending a quiet holiday together. As evening approached, Silorith finally rose to leave. I've been absent too long. There are ceremonies tonight I cannot miss. The Empire only tolerates so much deviation from tradition. I understand. Marcus helped her with her coat, specially tailored to accommodate her wings. Thank you for staying. Thank you for asking me to. She paused at the door. Marcus, I need to tell you something. The council meeting wasn't just about my absence today. There are complications developing in the outer systems, political tensions that may require my direct intervention. His heart sank. You're leaving? Not immediately, but soon, yes, perhaps for several months. She cupped his face in her hands. I wanted more time before having this conversation. But time is a luxury even empresses can't always afford. Months, perhaps longer. The situation is volatile, and where I'm going, communication will be limited. Subspace interference in that region is significant. Marcus took a deep breath, pushing down the selfish urge to ask her to stay. Then, we'll make the most of the time we have, and I'll be here when you get back. Just like that, no arguments, no requests to reconsider. Would they change anything? No. The duty of empire comes first. It always has. Then we deal with it. People have maintained relationships across longer distances with less reason to hope. Her scales shifted through a rainbow of colors. You impossible, adaptable, endlessly surprising human. You mentioned that already. It bears repeating. She kissed him. Properly this time. Taking time to get it right despite their anatomical differences. When they parted, both were breathing harder. I'll return as soon as I can. I know. And when I do, we'll have that dinner with your parents. Mom will die of excitement. Hopefully not literally. I'd like to meet her conscious. With one last touch, she was gone, leaving Marcus alone in his apartment. But it didn't feel empty the way it usually did. Her warmth lingered in the blankets. Her teacup sat on his coffee table, and on his wrist, the watch she'd given him showed the dual times of their worlds, a constant reminder that somewhere among the stars, a dragon was thinking of him too. He sat at his desk and pulled up his work files. If he was going to be the partner of an Empress, he needed to be worthy of it. Commander Hayes had sent several messages about new responsibilities, advanced training programs, opportunities he'd never dreamed of. Time to stop thinking like a junior diplomat and start thinking like someone who could stand beside Silorith as an equal. His communication device chimed. A message from Silorith. Your ceiling has developed a new water stain in the northeast corner. Have it repaired before I return. I'm sending a maintenance crew. He laughed, typing back. Stop monitoring my apartment from orbit. Never. The Empress protects what she treasures. I'm not treasure. You are to me. Marcus stared at those 4 words for a long moment, then got to work. Somewhere in the void, the Draconian fleet was mobilizing. Somewhere in the galaxy, political tensions threatened peace. But here on Earth, in a small apartment with water damage and a broken radiator, a human prepared to be worthy of an Empress's love.